Hello again, Billy Ho Sports coming at you with another preview video for the Jim Dandy Stakes. This Saturday, we return to the spa. A couple of great stakes races, actually. Earlier in the day, race 6 is going to be the grade 1 Vanderbilt. That's a sprint. That's going to have some powerful horses in it. Then the feature race is going to be race 10, and that's going to be your grade 2 Jim Dandy. And that's where our horse Fierceness from last week scratched out of the Haskell. And speaking of Haskell, I gotta say what a great race that was. And Dornock going to the lead and then giving it up in the stretch to Mindframe and then finding another gear. That's the second time I've seen him do that. He did it against Sierra Leone way back at the Remsen, which was I think that was the Aqueduct racetrack where they were in the slop and Sierra Leone passed him and then he came back and won. Similar fashion. That's just really great. Two premier races, though, this Saturday. So we're going to look at both of them probably separately. Later in the week, we're going to visit Del Mar. That's where the site of the 2024 Breeders' Cup will be held. A couple great races there in the San Diego Handicap and the grade 1 Bing Crosby. So another great weekend of racing. I had a really, really good weekend myself. Started off great with the 9-2 winner on Butte Catchy in I think the 5th race at Monmouth, and we just parlayed it from there with the big win by Dornock. It was obvious to me that I said if you got below 9-5 or even money on Mindframe, it's a no bet for me. So logically, after Fierceness scratched, the next logical step was to look at Dornock, who was 4-1 at the time, ended up going off at 3-1. I said this horse can wire him. That's the bet. So I bet then him to win, and then I bet a straight up exacta box of Dornock and Mindframe. And of course, you saw how it came. So pretty nice little return on the exacta, having the 3-1 over the top. And that also worked out for another one of my exactas earlier in the race, which included Tappet Trice. Glad to see that horse win a race and back on the track running well again. That sucker is still so slow to get out of the gate, but boy, once he gets that big body moving, man. Anyway, so appreciate everybody joining me today. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel and you're hitting that like button while you're at it. Toss a comment out there. Who do you like in the Jim Dandy? We only got 6 horses to talk about, so we won't be a long video. Follow me on X at Billy Ho Sports 2. Let's get after it. So race number 10 is the grade 2 Jim Dandy. That's going to be 9 furlongs on the dirt for 3-year-olds. Post 1 is Sierra Leone, trained by Chad Brown. Flavian Pratt will ride. The somewhat controversial 3-year-old by Gunrunner has yet to run a bad race in his career. He's got wins in the Risen Star and the Bluegrass Stakes on the Derby Trail, and those are bookended by just second place by Nose in the Remsen that I just discussed about Dornock, and by Nose in the Kentucky Derby to Mystic Dan. Looking back at the Belmont where he ran 3rd, he overcame quite a bit of trouble that he caused some of it on his own. He broke awkwardly from the gate, jumping back and forth, and was pretty far back. But then when they tipped to the stretch, he was about 8 wide on the outside, and he was forced a little wider by the number 7 Protective, which was ridden by Tyler Gaffleone, who we all recall was basically fired from Sierra Leone after the Kentucky Derby. He took a lot of the blame of the horse drifting down the stretch. But then he just did the same thing again after he got past Protective. He drifted inside and pushed 3 other horses over, almost knocking Anna Marie off his feet. So he's going to need to mature a little more. Going back, I looked at the Bluegrass. The jockey did a great job there to hold him steady and keeping him straight before he did ultimately get over to the rail, but he had him straightened out to where he didn't cause any problems. He didn't interfere at all with the horse in that race, but you can see his last couple of races, he interfered plenty. So as long as he can do that, he's going to be in position to close. Number 2 sees the gray, Dwayne Lucas, Jamie Torres, the rider, and this is the Preakness winner, training at Churchill Downs recently. Needed a break after the seventh in the Belmont. Just got out there and fired and just couldn't hold on anymore. It's a real grind going on that Derby trail, even though Seize the Gray didn't run the Kentucky Derby. He did run in the Pat Day Mile on Derby Day. So he still had the same cycle of races uh, going through that scenario there. So 3-year-old colt by Arrogate, good breeding. Like I said, won the Pat Day Mile in surprising fashion, coming down, splitting them down the wheel. But he surprised many, I think, by going wire to wire in the Preakness. I don't think many had that in him because he really turned it on down the stretch, and it's not like he didn't set some fast early fractions. So horses like Mystic Dan and Catching Freedom had their sights set on him, but he was just on another level that day. Number 3 is going to be batting down. That's Bill Mott. Junior Alvarado rides. This new shooter obviously burst on the scene, popped up in the Ohio Derby a couple weeks ago, wire to wire fashion. Is by Tappet. The colt took 4 shots to break his maiden, but the next out he was not to be denied at Thistledown. And Catching Freedom, I don't think it was the strongest field in hindsight, because I think Catching Freedom stock is falling now. And then the second place horse who's in this race, we'll talk about in a minute. So those horses are a couple of tiers below the couple of the top rivals he'll face here. Number 4, Pony Express, trained by John Sadler, ridden by Joel Rosario. This is kind of a late bloomer, 3-year-old. Seems to be finding his stride after running huge speed figures in his maiden breaker at Santa Anita on June 15th. Is sired by Gunrunner. He liked the added distance in the 2 turns, going a mile and a 16th. In his third start, he went wire to wire. Was the 6th choice out of 8 horses in that race, and it was spread pretty evenly: 2-1, 2-1, 5-1, 4-1, and he was like 8-1 as the 6th choice. So that to me says it was a well placed field of horses that he beat. I still think it would be a huge upset for Pony Express to win this race, but he is going to factor in one way or another with only 6 horses in the race. God forbid any of them scratch out, then this race is really going to start looking sad. And it's disappointing that we can't get bigger fields in these races. I guess a lot of them are taking the summer off, more rest for the horses, I guess. I don't know. Post 5, Gould's Gold was in the Ohio Derby. This is Kenny McPeek, Brian Hernandez combo that's probably taken the place of Preakness runner-up and Kentucky Derby winner Mystic Dan. McPeak was on record, I think, saying that he wanted to give him some more time off after that grueling Triple Crown run. So he's sending the son of Golden Sense and recent second place finisher in the Ohio Derby. That would be Gould's Gold. It wasn't a real threat to catch batting down, but I think that he showed some chops down the stretch, running by Catching Freedom late in the race. He did miss by just a nose in the Serve Barton Stakes previous to that. So it is definitely a horse that is got some quality. Now, rounding out is post 6. This is Fierceness, Todd Pletcher, Johnny V, Velasquez. So they decided to give him an extra week off. He was slated to run in the Haskell last week, scratched out of there. I guess they thought it was a different spot, a better spot, being at Saratoga, running the 9 furlong distance. Should suit him just fine. He's going to face pressure from pretty much every horse in the race except Sierra Leone if he goes out on front. But the question is he going to run back to that Florida Derby form, or are we going to see the horse that looked lackluster and sluggish being beaten by Hades in the Holy Bull? I don't know. But that was coming off the long layoff after that big Breeders' Cup win. So we all kind of forgave that because he did bounce right back and crush them in the Florida Derby. But then they did the whole thing with just wasn't ready for prime time on Derby Day. Outside post, he hopped when he started. It wasn't a real great trip in the Derby. So we can forgive that one. But the question is he going to blow everybody off the map, or is he just going to be a mediocre? It's one of he's either going to win or he's just going to disappoint. I guess it's possible Sierra Leone. I guess when I was thinking in my first impression, Sierra Leone's going to run down whoever in the stretch anyway. Quick look at the past performances, and then let's get our final selections, or not final selections, but I guess we'll call it first look selections. So just a quick reminder to subscribe to the channel, and always be smashing that like. Comments are always welcome, questions or best bets, anything you want to share. I am on X, formerly Twitter, at Billy Ho Sports. Follow me over there. Thanks for watching. Let's continue. Okay, we only have 6 horses, so it's going to be pretty quick going through the past performances. You can see everybody on top. The speed Pony Express ran last race was pretty impressive, 105. But Sierra Leone is the top prime power. I still think he's tentatively the best 3-year-old in the. I mean, Dornock has obviously put his foot or hat, so to speak, firmly in the ring with the Belmont, and then following that up with the impressive Haskell win. So Dornock moves up the list no matter what. But Sierra Leone has run nothing but great races, graded 1 stakes wins, runner-ups in major Triple Crown races, things of that nature. 3rd place in the Belmont wasn't even that. That was his worst race, and it wasn't even that bad. He was within about a length of the leaders coming home once they hit the wire. So Sierra Leone, 104 in the Belmont. That was and not even at his best. I think he can run. I like to look at these middle paces and late paces, because what we're looking for up here is going to be like 98, 90, and a 98 close to, I think, a 100, 101 Brisnet number is going to get it done here. And I think that's firmly within Sierra Leone's wheelhouse. It's really anybody's wheelhouse amongst these 6 horses, honestly. But I think Sierra Leone is technically the best horse. The only thing is it's at 9 furlongs on a speed favoring track that doesn't look like it's going to get any rain or anything. So that's a bit of an uphill battle. I do like the 1 post for him because he kind of gets out kind of slow anyway. You can see he's 9th and 10th and all this in all these starts. So he can just take off down the rail and then save ground the whole way and then make his move down the stretch, and who knows. But then Seize the Gray, he's going to be going after the break. Will we see the 105, or will we see more? I mean, he didn't run very well in the Bluegrass, but he was pretty good in some of his previous races before that. So batting down, or is this the horse that's going to run a 105 in this next race? Parlaying off the Ohio Derby. It's an early pressing or an early speed horse who gets out. You can see 109, but is 87 going to be enough late pace? I don't know. But you can see plus 14, plus 9, and then Seize the Gray plus 14, plus 16 in his wire job. So Sierra Leone's going to get some pace to run at. Gould's Gold, no stranger to that pace. He was up there right next to batting down the entire race, pretty much. And then the Sir Barton by a nose just gave it up to Corporate Power. So Fierceness, obviously, are we going to get the 112, or are we going to get the 106, or are we going to get the 89? That's the question. I mean, he was still going back watching this extremely slow pace. He was still on the lead right next to Hades turning for home, and they had the stretch drive, and he should have had the horse left too, but he wasn't there. So I think his fitness level wasn't there. And then he turned around and hit that big 106, and then he bounced coming off of that. That's kind of my theory on the whole matter. But you got Sierra Leone, if he runs 100 for the second pace, like 100 right here, E2, and then a 97, I think that's going to put him right there. This 93 113 would win the race, I think. I don't think Seize the Gray has the late pace. This LP, going back up here looking at Seize the Gray, you can see the 65 in the last race. Then the 8, even in the Preakness, he just ran up the gut at a 119 in the middle of the race, and then just had to hold his own down the stretch. So he just needed 83s and 85s. But with Sierra Leone coming after you, he hasn't faced Sierra Leone. So I think that he's going to need a little more than an 85 to get there. So that's just kind of my first impression of the race. So let's go ahead and round out some just kind of first look selections and see what we got. So my early lean is going to be Sierra Leone. If he breaks okay and doesn't act up in the gate, I think he'll have plenty of early pace to set him up. He's going to settle inside with the with only 5 other horses in the race. He can just hug that rail and just be sixth, and be last, and only be 4 lengths off the lead, and just stay inside the whole race, and then just turn on the afterburners coming home. And maybe he's not going to be so wide this time around like he has been in these other races, because he's broken from the ninth post. He broke from the outside. Now in the Kentucky Derby was a little different. He stayed on the inside at the 2 post, but he worked his way outside, and he was outside of 8 or 10 horses coming home down the stretch. So he doesn't necessarily have to be in the middle of the track or six path. So it's going to be, I think, either Seize the Gray or Fierceness could get loose. I lean more Fierceness getting loose than Seize the Gray, because you certainly don't want to be 8 lengths back hitting the stretch if you're Sierra Leone. My lean as of today is Sierra Leone runs them down late, passing the rivals, kind of similarly performance like Risen Star when he beat Track Phantom, and he passed those horses late coming down the stretch, kind of that way. I think the Chad Brown factor is going to set in, though. Chad Brown, Saratoga, popular, going to take extra money. So if he's even money or lower, like 3 to 5 or whatever, going to have to find something else, or just watch the race for my own enjoyment. So that's your preview for the Jim Dandy. If I have any change in strategy, I'm going to add it as an addendum to the Grade 1 Vanderbilt video, which will be coming out in the next few days. So be on the lookout for that. Set your notification bell so you don't miss anything. Be subscribed to the channel. We're getting up there, and I want to be pushing 3,000 subscribers by the Breeders' Cup. So let's get to that level. I appreciate everybody's support. Click that like button while you're at it. Follow me on X at Billy Ho Sports. Thanks for watching, and we will see you soon.